Okay, let's talk some footy. I want to ask you about the Brisbane Lions and their off-season because Connor McKenna has nominated them as his club of choice. So the Lions have won the race for him, putting another layer of icing on this unbelievably good off-season recruiting window from the Lions. We know they traded for Josh Dunkley. They got Jack Gunston in for nothing as free agent. Pair of father sons will join in the draft. Number one overall prospect Will Ashcroft will be there. Jasper Fletcher as well. Now, they've gone so far as to, according to one cheeky text from Dom, I think it was earlier, to put Jasper Fletcher in a back brace to ensure no bids are going to be put on him. So that's how good they are going, Brisbane. They're pulling out all the stops. But is this one of the better recruiting efforts we've seen from a club in recent times?
Well, it has to be, doesn't it? I mean, Dunkley's going to have a massive impact on that midfield that in the end weren't tough enough. Their backline failed. They didn't really have the defensive gridlock that they'd had in the first half of the season, in the back half of the season. And they didn't have a great record against top 8 teams last year. So they have to get better. They have to be better to contend. And contending is, in my opinion, you have to finish top 4 at the end of the season, end of the home and away season to be a contender. And everyone says, but you can win it from fifth. I don't think you can. They have to maximise that home ground advantage. I think that they'll have a new captain next year. I don't think.
What's wrong with Dane Zorko?
Well, I just think it's almost time now. I mean, he had his own challenges with the sledging stuff last year. I just don't think that you need that distraction from your number one man.
That aside, which was a nasty chapter in his career, he'd straightened up. I think he started the year, did he not, angry? There was it was pretty much fighting. He got that out of his system, I thought, by the back end of the year.
He was injured early.
Injured a bit too.
He had the bad Achilles, didn't he?
But getting involved in a lot of scuffles and reportable incidents and the like, he seemed to have got that out of his game. But then, the sledging episode was nasty.
It's
Is
a
it
lot
time
of change,
for a change?
It's a lot of change. I think that Harris Andrews will probably be captain next year. And he'd make a good captain, I reckon. It might be good for him as well to take a greater responsibility. He's ready for that. He's been there a long time.
Well, you said this year he had some things he needed to address in terms of his football.
And I think if you're going to be the captain, then you sharpen every aspect of your game. So I'm excited about what Brisbane can do in 2023. But they're just amongst a group of about 5 or 6 teams that are going to be at the pointy end of next year, just going hell for leather to win it.
Yep.
It's going to be another fantastic season.
The proof will be in the pudding, of course, but the difference Dunkley could make in there fits perfectly, eases the burden on Lachie Neale, so there's a flow-on effect to these things. And even though he's got a few more miles on the clock, Dan McStay will play his role, and I'm sure have a great career at Collingwood, but I see Jack Gunston as an upgrade on Dan McStay.
Yeah.
So you bring him in, obviously, for nothing. And then you add youth as well at the same time with the kids.
See, I think you now get Rayner. I don't think Rayner's a midfielder at all. I think he's a centre forward player. He's that hybrid forward that can rear up and mark the ball, take a contested pack mark, and can crumb and create scores. He's a forward 50 player for me. They've tried to get him as a midfielder because they've been short on or light on for midfield players. They're the same half a dozen guys through. They haven't got 10 guys they can throw through the middle. They've only got 6 to 8. And so they've had to use Bailey in there. They've had to use Rayner in there. Now they say, okay, Dunkley comes in. Ashcroft will spend time on a wing, which gives you maybe McCluggage inside. I know he spent a lot of time in the middle this year, McCluggage, but they don't have to challenge their forwards to be midfielders anymore.
And they need some other things to go right. So you'd like a better campaign out of Joe Danaher, to be injury-free for a start, to have a greater impact on the scoreboard and be the Joe Danaher that we remember him at his peak as well. So they clearly need some things to go right there. They need a good injury-free run and the like. But I'll tell you, Connor McKenna will make a difference there, I reckon. That speed off half-back.
Got no speed at half-back.
Yep, he's a needs recruit. And if he's up for it, if he's fit, if he's going to perform and he can get back to what we saw at Essendon, then he's going to be a great recruit as well.
I'll be keen to see what they do with that. I mean, at halfback, Rich has been vulnerable, and Kitty Coleman was vulnerable late in the year. Very good ball in hand and very creative ball in hand. But when the opposition are bringing the ball forward, they were gettable more often than not against the good teams. And this is why they got a poor record against top 8 teams, because they were gettable on the halfback flank.
Hipwood's the other one, who understandably, for a player of his nature and size, was slow to come back from the knee, but he got going in the back end of the season. So he gets another pre-season behind him as well.
They had a lot of injuries last year.
Didn't they?
A lot of injuries, down back particularly.
Yep.
So they'll have a better run, you would think. A bit more luck. You need a lot of luck to win it, obviously. But no, they've got the squad, and they've done a great job in attracting players of Dunkley's character and status. Gunston, well, how many goals will Gunston kick next year? If he, they're getting a lot of supply down that end of the ground.
Oh, 40 plus.
If he kicks 40 plus, they're a top 4 lock.
Yep.
If he kicks 40 plus.
And an unbelievably good connector as well, and a professional and fit. If his back continues to behave itself and he remains injury free, I think he'll be a great player. He could be a sort of player who could play for several more years, I think, should the back behave itself. Yeah, absolutely. Carlton's approach for Brett Ratten, as we read in the Herald Sun, the Jay Clark story overnight. They reached out to, obviously, their former captain, best and fairest in a premiership year in 95, former coach as well, albeit it didn't end well under a different administration down there. So the Blues reached out to him. They've since gone in another direction with Tom Lonergan. But should North Melbourne go for Brett Ratten and reunite him with Alistair Clarkson?
Well, it's up to Alistair, isn't it, as to whether he wants Brett there. He'd know him very well. You can never have too many good people at a footy club. Never have too many good people. And
well, there's a soft cap element to these sort of things now, unfortunately.
Yeah, but you just pay the tax.
Yep.
If I was North Melbourne, I'm going over the soft cap. If it's a difference between getting Brett Ratten and not getting Brett Ratten, and pay the tax.
Yeah, there's a boot. It's going to increase, marginally. I think a couple of 100,000.
Yeah. But does it? I mean, you need development for this young list coming through. So right now, the prime focus for the club is to punch development hours into these under 23-year-old players, and Brett Ratten is perfect for that role.
And at the same time, though, you could understand if he just wanted to take the sting out of it for a year.
Oh, if he does.
Absolutely.
Clearly, yeah. Well, I mean, why would you go back in? If you're not looking to be the senior coach again, he's probably not going to get a third opportunity.
And he's kept his head down, obviously, in the wake of the St Kilda announcement as well, which you can understand that one blindsided him and certainly cut him deep. So we'll see what he does going forward. There'll always be a job there.
Call, do you think?
Oh, I would have thought now.
Pretty soon, yeah.
I would have thought now, absolutely, given the pieces of the puzzle are pretty much all in place across the competition. And I know North Melbourne have made their appointments, but I think he'd be a great fit there. And obviously, history says he and Clarko get along grandly at club level. So we'll see what happens with Brett Ratten, who for the second time in his career was probably judged to have been harshly treated when it comes to the head coaching job. What have you made of the debate around the AFLW Grand Final location? It might even now be a place called Springfield. Brisbane's new facility that has never hosted a game. It's only just had its turf laid down, for heaven's sake. And it might be hosting an AFLW Grand Final that, history has shown can attract more than 50,000 people.
So Richmond have set their course here. It's not about the volume of people you can get to the venue. It's about winning the game. Yeah,
and the AFLW, which I like. It does what the AFL in a perfect world would want to do, and that is prioritise the best team with a home grand final. That's the debate every year from the interstate clubs now is we want the grand final in Perth or in Adelaide or whatever, and it'll never happen. We know the contract in place with the MCG. So I think it's admirable. But with this new time slot on the calendar now, they've walked straight into a battle with cricket that they can't win. And Calvin Harris, by the way, too, is in action at Metricon. We'll ask Stewie Dew about Calvin Harris later on.
Really?
Yeah. Does he get Stewie's office?
I don't know.
So what happens with the AFLW grand final, do you think? Do they persist with the home ground sort of priority, or do they just make it a neutral venue?
No, you persist. You go any which way you can to win it. I know Craig Starcevich doesn't want to talk about it till this weekend, until they officially make it.
Oh, he hates it. He hates the debate. In fact, this is him yesterday.
Well, obviously he's going to. The coaches are boring in these situations, aren't they?
Well, you can understand that one, can't you?
But you could write the script on that.
Yeah, of course.
A month out.
Of course.
But you've got to plan either way. You've got to plan if you're making it. Where are we going? I think that they'll have it at Springfield, don't you?
I don't know. If it's ready, perhaps. Yep. If it's ready, I don't know. I don't have a line of sight on it.
It wasn't supposed to be ready till next season, and it's ahead of time because of the rains that we've had.
Big story broke since you were last on air and before now, and that is Michael Pell, the AFL umpire, new to the senior ranks this year, officiated 16, 17 games this year, now at the centre of a huge betting scandal on the Brownlow medal and facing charges for corrupt conduct. What's your read on this?
No read. I think like everyone else, just sitting back waiting for the details to come out as to what has actually gone on. This spot betting, being able to bet on the Brownlow votes, 3, 2, and 1.
Got hair on it?
Oh, set up for trauma, really.
Probably a matter of when and not if, wasn't
Yeah,
it, unfortunately,
absolutely.
given the event's already been run and won, and then the spot betting on top of it just adds another layer of,
What's the
integrity,
threshold?
vulnerability.
What's the threshold? What's the volume of money?
No, I think it's more the money's important, I think, and I know Jared thinks that as well, but I think it's the manner in which the information was passed. So was the information passed in lockstep with the season? Mark this one away for a rainy day, boys. Oh, just round 9, just to fish out it. Mark
back
this
in
one.
July.
Well, I'm just thinking if that has happened, then that's premeditated, that's planned, that's serious. Or is it on the Brownlow night itself where they're sitting around the coffee table, having a few drinks, watching? Oh, this round coming up, you won't believe what happened here. Boys get on the
No,
app.
I think it was-
Or was it a couple of days before?
Yeah.
Are they planning a party and who's bringing what? Oh, and by the way, it'll be interesting to see what happens in this game when I did this. So context is important in the sense of how Michael's shared the information, if in fact he has. There are allegations at the moment. So I think that's just as much important as the volume of the money that's been, and it's said to be in the thousands of dollars across multiple agencies, as per the reports.
With the thousands, are we talking?
I don't know. We'll wait and see.
No,
I do not.
You don't hold back on us.
Absolutely do not know.
Listeners deserve more. Edmund.
Who's making the decisions at the AFL? I want to ask you this after the break as well, given we're still looking for a GM of football after Brad Scott was appointed coach of Essendon. The AFL's competition committee met this week.
What's happening?
There is a lot to decide when
Who
it
are they
comes
reporting
to the
to?
game, and there's a lot of CEO roles to fill as well at your old club, at Collingwood, at Essendon. So there's a lot to discuss with you in your last day
I think
in
our
this
man
chair, King.
Lloydie will end up at the Kangas, I reckon.
Simon,
Hmm.
as CEO.
Hmm.
Really?
I think so.